the problems that are not being addressed by Cornell that you would like to see addressed?
Well, the air pollution issue goes beyond Cornell. I believe, I understand from Cornell, they will be happy to team up with us if we can form some kind of coalition. This is a monstrous undertaking, but they're not against it. They just don't feel they're responsible for all the air pollution on Roosevelt Island, and they are not. But they would team up with us.
Right.
I'd like to bring something up.
Well, anything else?
Since you asked a question, it's not a problem, it's just something to be considered over the next year and a half as we wait the new phase one to actually open here. We've been participating and focusing on demolition and construction issues. Those have to a large extent been addressed and will be phasing out as the construction process reaches its conclusion, which brings up the question of how do we incorporate Cornell University, its graduate center, the co-locators, into this existing community? That's a question that hasn't been answered. It's a question that needs to be addressed over the next year and a half, and I hope that it will be, especially through this organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want, sorry. Go ahead. Okay. In particular, even though we're addressing the nitty-gritty of what has to be done in terms of construction, because that's where we're at right now, but ultimately, the construction of Cornell Tech brings approximately 7,000 new people to this community, a community of 14,000. So we're increasing our population density by another 50%. And it's going to create a tremendous overcrowding. It's going to create a drain on our resources. It is something that must be addressed is what's going to happen with policing and public safety in this community. Right now, we have a public safety department that, from a standpoint of the ratios of policing, we're well under the ratio that's prescribed for New York City. And when we get more population density, that problem is going to increase tremendously. Yes, they're going to have their own security system, but they're not going to be isolated there. It's not like they're going to drop in by balloon. They're going to be walking up our streets. They're going to trip and fall. They're going to, have automobiles that go past stop signs. They're going to have heart attacks, just like everybody else. It's more of a load on our transportation vehicles. And it's also going to be a load on our recreation space. Right now, our recreation space is leased out to Zog Sports and corporate and corporations that pay for the use of the fields, and it takes our fields away from our kids. And when we have Cornell's kids in the mix with our own, with the kids that we now have, it's even going to be more demand than what we currently have. We're isolated. We're an island. Our kids can't go down 3 streets to the left and 1 street over to the right and find a new playing field. We're stuck with what we have right here in this community. So these things really have to be addressed. And we're not thrilled with the lack of consideration that's going on with those things, the quality of life things that are ultimately going to be issues once Cornell opens its doors.
Well, I want to take what both Matt and Joyce have talked about one step further. If we look in different areas where universities have been planted, and you notice what's happened in those areas, NYU, I think, is a prime example, and the one that I'm going to use. Over the years, they took over almost the entire community. And I think what we need to address now, before the campus is open, before that next step starts to happen, because there are 2 buildings that haven't been built. We don't know if Cornell is looking at that space yet or not, or whether they're just, so I think we need to put that out on the table, and we need to have discussions about how, even a step further than what you've said, how they are going to integrate into the community beyond, like, how much of the housing that's available in the community are they gonna start using up? Because
Yeah.
it's more convenient to be here than wherever they're commuting from. And I think we need to start that conversation this year and start moving that forward with what both of you have said, but then take it that step further. Because I don't want this to be Cornell Island, I don't think anybody does. And so that discussion has to start.
Does a university, or I really don't, like the graduate university, are they ever going to say, yes, we've got my, I got my eye on 575 Main Street, this is not going to happen? How do you learn these
directly
things?
say those things, but I think if we start that conversation, that we have a concern that.
Well, I think the primary concern is that, like Mike's here from the Tennis Association, okay, we have 6 tennis courts. I've lived in this community for almost 40 years. We had 6 tennis courts when I got here. We had 3,000 people. We now have 14,000 people. When we have 21,000 people, we're going to have a lot more tennis players. I mean, that's reality. We're going to have a lot more soccer players. We're going to have a lot more Little League players. We're going to have, people that deserve to have some recreational supports. And it's an island. It has to come from somewhere. We have to have more policing here in this community. That money has to come from somewhere. Cornell has come up with $400,000. This is a drop in the bucket compared to what.
That's what they're using as the escort money. Those
That's
cars
trucks,
between the
yeah.
trucks.
That's about as far as it goes. We need to have more policing. We should have a police booth, or a couple of police booths here, so we have permanent policing here in this community, and other things that are going to create the supports for a population of 21,000 people.
So what I'm seeing is that as people, as the interaction and the relationship continues with Cornell, there's like when we first started, there was an attempt to be cooperative, and then there was like batting of heads while everybody started to figure out how much ground they could give up and how much they weren't willing to give up. And now, I mean, just like any negotiation, we're at a point right now where we're basically being cooperative with one another. And that seems to be the place that Cornell likes to be at, because, and then they're starting to give some ground. They are spending some money, and that maybe as they come in, like we need to figure out when to push and when to step back. And we pushed on the school. We really pushed on the school because we were really serious about it.
We want it to be number 1.
And then lo and behold, Cornell had this great idea that they wanted to develop a curriculum for students in the city, which is what we wanted them to do, but they came up with it.
I think some of that is the change in the leadership of Cornell. I think that we now have somebody who's running Cornell that's a little more Roosevelt Island sensitive.
Or possibly
I
one
don't
of
think
our
that it
city
was just-
officials stuck it to them. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't just Cornell that came up with it. We demanded it. We asked for it.
Yes.
We pushed very hard. We had a lot of very unpleasant conversations.
Still a lot of work to do, but yes.
Yeah, it was hard. And we also used our elected officials and to help.
Yeah,
And it worked. Cornell is trying to be responsive to pressure, and especially pressure from elected officials.
But there are things having to do with the quality of life as we go forward that are going to change with the mayor, and that has to be addressed.
Yes,
And
it
we
might,
have to
and it might actually be addressed when they come and they realize that there's not enough support
That's too late.
for
Why
them.
should we be in a position where?
Oh, we've been talking about it since ULERP. I think we continue the talk.
Oh,
I mean,
we'll
this is
continue
not
to
new
talk.
topics.
We will continue to
Shouldn't
talk.
be.
And we welcome your input on
Yeah,
that as
please,
well.
everybody.
Because this is an ongoing discussion,
Thank you.
So we have an email address,
Here.
And
On
send
your-
us anything, you know, we could turn it into more of a listserv if you want, you know, so.
Keep
that-
your ideas coming and your complaints and your
Keep your
hopes.
ideas coming in and we'll compile them and send them out so that you can.
And ideas about the future, very welcome.
Meeting adjourned?
Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right.